Hi guys, it's Rachel. I'm going to share a little about my story and where I've come from and where I got to where I am today. Just want to let you know up front that I haven't shared it with a lot of people, so I'm just going to be really real and really vulnerable with you guys. So growing up, I was actually fortunate to be raised in a really loving family, have amazing parents. They raised me in a Christian family, so I got the opportunity, to go through Sunday school all the way up to, youth group and all those different activities. Really had a great support system of kids my age. I was actually really sheltered, you could say. So in high school, I was sometimes made fun of by my friends because I was the naive girl that didn't know what naughty words and different things were. And I always kind of felt like a little bit different, like I didn't always fit in. But I was okay with that. And my relationship with Jesus started when I was a young girl. I accepted him into my heart at the age of 4 or 5 with my father. And so I began to hear his voice as a young girl. And it's not like a loud, audible voice, but they're more like impressions on your heart or thoughts that kind of go across your mind and just feeling his presence, things like that. And so I grew up with a heart on fire for the Lord and for sharing about him with people around me. And when I got into high school, I still was seeking after the Lord and really hungry for him, but just being around peer pressure and everything like that, it was a lot easier to become the silent, shy girl. So outside of school, I would be pursuing youth group and choir and different things, and had a really great support system at school. It was a little bit more quiet, a little more shy. And then when I actually graduated high school and went on to college, I always had this idea that I was going to go to this college called Bethel College. It's now Bethel University, and the reason I wanted to go there was really because a lot of my camp leaders growing up and coaches and youth pastors had gone to Bethel, so I was really inspired by people who had been leaders in my life and wanted to go to Bethel. Well, come my senior year, I got a little bit rebellious, and I told my parents I'll go anywhere but Bethel. It's half a mile down the road from our house. It's closer to our house than our high school. There's no way I'm going there. And it just kind of came out of me, and I don't even know why. So I ended up going to a different college. It was, still a private school, but had a little bit more of a, how would I say this? It was a little bit less, what's the word? Less sheltered. And so I went to the school my freshman year of college. It was really eye-opening because, when you leave your parents' home, that's when you really figure out, who am I? The last 18 years of my life, I was under their household and had to respect and follow their rules. And now here I am on my own, and I get to think and act for myself and figure out who I am and what I believe in and what my purpose is. All these different things that are going on, especially your freshman year of college. And I'll backtrack a little bit. So when I was in 8th grade, I had a friend who, she was quite the reader. I was not so much into books, but she read this book called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. I thought the name of the book was really cheesy, a little bit tacky, but she was inspired by the book, and at the end of the book it has you, write out what you're looking for in your husband someday, and it talks about purity and saving yourself for the one. And so she came over to my house one day and she's like, Rachel, we are making this list. And so we just busted out a sheet of paper and we started out writing, different qualities we're looking for in someone we'd marry someday. And so it was character traits, appearance, goals you want to accomplish, all these different things. So internal and external aspects of what you're looking for, very specific. So now flash forward back to my freshman year of college. Here I am, this naive girl in the real world, trying to figure out who I am. And it's a tug of war for your heart, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate. Freshman year, there's all these pressures to get into partying and start dating, and there's the opportunity if you want to use drugs. It's pretty easy to access. And so I felt really alone. I had some really cool roommates, but I was just really felt alone because I had never partied before, and I didn't know if I wanted to actually party at that point because I didn't know if it worked with like what I believed in, and I didn't want to lose control. A lot of it was like I don't want to put myself in a place where I lose control, and I'm vulnerable. And so throughout college, a lot of girls in today's world will have experiences where a guy might approach you and try to like force themselves on you. So my freshman year actually had an occurrence like that. Actually, a friend from high school invited me over to hang out, and he tried to force himself on me, and I said no, and ended up telling my RA at the time, the girl who would kind of like supervise our girls' dorm. And that kind of was like my first like eye-opening experience of like, okay, like I have to be more guarded and less naive. And so that was just kind of like the beginning. And then a couple of years later, I got into a relationship with someone who was not a believer. And I had to promise myself that I wouldn't date someone that wasn't a believer, just because I just wanted like our beliefs to align with each other. If I'm gonna marry someone, like I wanted them to fit the list of what I was looking for, and that was like the most important thing to me, and it was the biggest thing I compromised. But I had this mentality of, okay, like they'll change and I can change them. And some people call it like missionary dating, like, oh, you can date the person and like pray and wait for God to change their heart and for them to become who they're supposed to become. And so did that for 2 years. Was an amazing person with a very kind, compassionate heart. Spent a lot of time around my family and going to church with us, and there was drastic changes. However, it wasn't a decision that he had made for himself. It was more like changing for me to like win me over. And so when things got rocky in his life and he lost his job, ended up moving home 3 hours away, fell into a slump, got very depressed, and diverted back to his old ways of alcoholism, and then ended up cheating on me and betraying me, and the whole relationship went kibosh. And I remember being just devastated because it was the first time I'd ever really opened my heart to someone. And so I was like, hey God, like, is there really someone out there for me? And you're just in that place of like questioning and really broken. And I was, right after I had graduated college. So fast forward a little bit, 3 months later, I'm at my first job outside of college, and still healing and trying to get through everything, and just trying to pick up the broken pieces of my heart and move forward with like whatever my calling is and wherever I'm going. And ended up having an occurrence where a coworker that I really trusted actually raped me. And to be honest with you, I felt like it was my fault. And you hear these stories of girls all the time, like, how could a girl think it was their fault? But, as girls, we tend to say, well, I could have done this, I could have yelled louder, I could have been more firm, I could have been smarter to not trust that person. And there's all these different like lies that come at you. And so I actually had a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. My whole image of who I thought I was began to change. Like I used to be like, okay, like I'm waiting for the one God, and I don't want to have sex before marriage. And after that happens, like when I looked in the mirror, I was like, I'm tainted, like who's gonna, how will I ever find like a good guy now? Like I'm, used goods, and like where is my value and worth if someone's willing to do that to me? Like I must not have much value or worth. Like here I've now been cheated on and betrayed, and I've also been taken advantage of. So my whole image of men actually began to really change too. Like, okay, I can't trust men. Like, are there any good men out there? And my heart began to harden. And so then, going forward from that point, I actually kept it pretty secret. I didn't tell many friends, didn't tell my parents. I just kind of said, okay, God, like you're going to help me heal through this, just me and you, one-on-one, which probably wasn't the healthiest thing. Like, obviously God can help heal you, but you still have to, like, seek out advice and help of, like, a community of other people, and, like, people that are older than you to come alongside you. And so, the years preceding that, I still was hoping that I could marry and find this great guy someday, but felt unworthy. And never really got in a serious relationship after the first one I had. But what I would see myself doing is I would, get the opportunity to go on a date and get to know someone. A lot of times they're really great guys, even Christian guys, but I was just so closed off. You know, I'd put on the nice face and be polite and go to dinner, and the person would begin pursuing me, and then I would flip the switch and cut them out of my life. Like, just, they were confused, like, whoa, what happened? Like, nice girl just cut me out of her life. I thought, like, something was going to come of this. And it was just because, like, the hurt and the fear and the pain and the rejection, I would rather cut someone out of my life first before they had the opportunity to hurt me. And then when I eventually did seek out help, I found a mentor, a woman that I trusted. I was looking for someone that I knew from my church that, like, wasn't affiliated with, like, my close friends or family, so I knew I could really just tell her everything and know it wasn't going to get out. And that was really encouraging. She began to pray with me and just listen to me. She didn't judge me for, you know, the different decisions I had made. And even after I had gotten raped, like, I had made some poor decisions after that, because now viewing myself differently as tainted goods, you know, I wasn't necessarily being, like, the most pure individual. I might not have been sleeping around, but I was definitely not respecting my body to the point that I would have liked to. And so it was amazing to have a mentor to share things with, and she would pray for me and encourage me and just kind of hold me accountable in my walk. And actually, when I met my husband, it was kind of funny. I told God, like, I'm not getting married till you can get rid of all this junk in me, all these walls, all these barriers, because I don't want to be this cold-hearted woman who's marrying someone, and I want to be, like, set free of all of that. I want to be, like, pure again before I meet him, because I don't want him to see the brokenness in me. Well, I actually met my husband, like, while I still had the baggage and brokenness, and was, like, going through, like, a little bit of the healing process, but it was still, like, rather closed off. And it was really cool that God actually let him come alongside me during this really painful healing process, and he got to see me at my absolute worst and love me at my absolute worst and walked alongside me in what could have been a really lonely season. And so God actually brought me through some really intense healing, really powerful. I'll share that in a different video of the different steps, because it's pretty cool. But I ended up sharing, you know, with my parents about things that had occurred, and just being, like, more vulnerable about sharing with people, started to, like, be less of an internal processor and find healthier ways to share with other people that I trusted in my life. And so I've really gotten a lot of healing. But what I want to share with you today is that, you know, no matter what has been done to you, or no matter what you've done, God can redeem you. So even if, like, for example, you're a prostitute, or even if, like, you're a virgin, like, we've all messed up no matter what scale that you think you're on. Like, nothing we can do can separate us from his love, and he can redeem the time, he can redeem your heart. And so here I am, I thought I was broken, used goods, and God was able to redeem my heart and put the pieces back together. And, like, now I can talk about my past, it doesn't hurt anymore. You know, a few years ago, if I would have tried to share my testimony with you, it would be really painful. I would, like, be, you know, brought back into those scenes. But because I've been healed and set free of that, like, now I can openly share how God has brought me the healing and the freedom that he has. And a lot of times your biggest, you know, wounds and your biggest trials and your biggest, like, seasons of pain, once God sets you free of that, those a lot of times can be, like, the areas of your life where you can bring that same freedom to other men, other women. And so I just want to let you know that, like, God is always there for you, and even in your pain, he's there for you. So even, like, when I went through these seasons and these different occurrences, like, he was there for me, and he didn't judge me. And when I wept, he wept, and when I was hurting, he was hurting, and he's redeemed my image. Like, now I know that, like, my identity is in Christ, and nothing can shake that. So, you know, whether someone says something to me or does something to me that's not right, or it's occurred in the past, like, that doesn't change how I view myself. When I look in the mirror today, I see myself as redeemed, and, like, I am a daughter of the one true King, and so are you. And so I actually just want to bust up this list a little bit, and we'll be sharing in a future video as well how I did meet my husband, but it's just quite extensive. And I will say that my husband has everything on the list above and beyond. It actually blows my mind, that God cares so much about us, even the goofy details, like some of the things on here, like, gosh, he cared so much about me, even when I messed up and I was broken. He still has the best plan for me, and he still has the best plan for you too. So I just want you to be encouraged today that nothing can separate us from God's love.